Welcome, everyone. I'm excited to kick off our presentation today. The topic is light, shadow, and reflection. We'll explore how light interacts with surfaces to create shadows and reflections, and why these elements are so important in art and design. So, stay with me as we uncover the fascinating ways light shapes our visual world. Let's get started. Let's take a look at the contents of today's presentation. We will start with an introduction to light, shadows, and reflection, which are fundamental concepts in understanding how we see and interact with the world around us. Moving forward, we'll explore the sources of light, beginning with natural sources like the sun and stars, and then artificial sources such as lamps and bulbs. We'll also discuss the idea of energy and how light functions as a form of energy. Later in the presentation, we'll examine non-luminous objects, things that don't emit light on their own, and distinguish between luminous and non-luminous objects. This helps us understand how light interacts with different surfaces and materials. Finally, we'll do a quick revision to reinforce what we've learned. Connecting all these points, the overall theme is understanding the nature of light, its sources, and how it influences shadows and reflections in our daily lives. Hello, students. Today we are going to explore light, shadow, and reflection. These are fascinating topics that help us understand how we see things around us. Imagine being in a dark room where you can't see anything at all. It's completely black, right? Now, think about how your eyes need light to see objects. Without light, everything remains hidden. Light is essential because it allows us to see things clearly. Shadows are created when an object blocks the light, and reflections happen when light bounces off surfaces like water or glass. Throughout this chapter, we'll learn how light behaves and how it helps us perceive the world. This understanding is crucial because it connects to many everyday experiences, like seeing your reflection in a mirror or watching a shadow move across the ground. So, let's dive deeper into how light, shadows, and reflections work together to shape what we see. So, what is light? Well, at its core, light is a form of energy. It's something we encounter every day, from the sunlight that warms our skin to the glow of a lamp in a room. Understanding that light is energy helps us see how it interacts with the world around us. It's a fundamental part of the universe, and it connects to many other concepts we'll explore throughout this presentation. Recognizing light as energy also opens up fascinating discussions about how it travels, how we perceive it, and its role in various technologies. So, in essence, light is not just something visible. It's a powerful form of energy that shapes our experience and understanding of the universe. Let's talk about energy. In physics, energy is essentially the capacity for doing work. It's what allows objects to move or cause change. Because of energy, an object can perform tasks like pushing or lifting, or even heat another object. So, understanding what energy is helps us grasp how things around us function. Think of energy as a kind of power that drives everything. It's not just about movement. It also includes forms like wind energy, solar energy, nuclear energy, and many others. These different types of energy are all around us and are vital to how we generate power and sustain life. Connecting this to the bigger picture, energy is fundamental because it underpins all physical processes, whether it's the motion of planets or the electricity powering your devices. Recognizing the different forms of energy helps us appreciate how interconnected and dynamic our world really is. Light, as you know, is actually a form of energy. It's fascinating because it helps us see the world around us. Think about it. When it's dark, we can't see objects at all. That's because there's no light reaching our eyes. It means we really depend on a light source to make objects visible. Without light, everything would be invisible to us. So, in essence, light is essential for visibility, and it plays a crucial role in how we perceive and interact with our environment. Let's take a closer look at the sources of light. There are countless ways light can come into our world, but broadly speaking, we can categorize them into two main groups: natural sources and artificial sources. Natural sources include everything from the sun, which is our primary source of daylight, to fireflies and bioluminescent organisms. These are the lights that happen naturally in nature without any human intervention. On the other hand, artificial sources are created by humans, such as electric bulbs, LEDs, and lamps. These are designed to provide illumination when natural light isn't enough or isn't available. Understanding these categories helps us appreciate how light influences our lives and how different sources serve various needs. This classification also ties into the broader theme of how we harness and utilize light in our daily environments. Let's talk about some natural sources of light. First up is the sun, which is by far the most important natural light source for our planet. It provides us with heat and light, and it's crucial for sustaining life on Earth. In fact, the sunlight is a key factor that makes life possible here. Stars are another natural source of light, but because they are so far away, only a tiny amount of their light actually reaches us. Still, they add to the universe's vast display of light. Moving closer to home, we have creatures like fireflies and glowworms. You'll often find them in places like caves in New Zealand, where their bioluminescence creates magical light displays. Then there's the anglerfish and jellyfish, which are fascinating examples of animals that produce their own light through bioluminescence. They use this ability for hunting or communication in the deep, dark ocean. We also see natural light from phenomena like bushfires and lightning. Bushfires not only create light, but also play a role in ecological cycles, while lightning, of course, provides a sudden, powerful flash of natural illumination in the sky. So, as you can see, natural sources of light are everywhere around us, from the sun to tiny creatures and even atmospheric phenomena. They remind us of the incredible variety of ways nature illuminates our world. Now, let's look at some examples of artificial sources of light. These are things we create or use to produce light, especially when natural light isn't available. For instance, we have light bulbs, which are probably the most common source of artificial light in our homes and workplaces. Then there are lamps and lighters, which serve different purposes but all provide light artificially. It's important to note that flames from matches and candles are also artificial sources of light. They produce light through combustion, which is a chemical process. These sources are essential in many situations, whether for illumination or even for ambience. Overall, artificial sources of light like torches, light bulbs, and flames help us extend our activities beyond daylight hours and are an integral part of our daily lives. They connect to the broader theme of how we harness different types of light to meet our needs. Luminous objects are those that can emit light energy by themselves. Essentially, these are objects that produce their own light, unlike objects that merely reflect light from other sources. For example, the sun is a perfect example because it generates light through nuclear reactions happening inside it. Candles are another example, as the flame produces light when the wax burns. Light bulbs also fall into this category since they produce light through electrical energy, either by heating a filament or using other technologies. Stars are luminous objects too. They shine because of nuclear fusion happening in their cores. Understanding luminous objects helps us see how light is generated naturally and artificially. This concept ties into our overall theme of understanding how we perceive the world around us, especially through light. Remember, these objects can produce their own light, which makes them distinct from non-luminous objects that only reflect light. Let's talk about non-luminous objects. These are objects that cannot emit light energy by themselves. Unlike the sun or a light bulb, they don't produce their own light. Instead, we see them because they reflect light from other sources. For example, the Earth, which has a surface that reflects sunlight, is a non-luminous object. The moon, similarly, doesn't emit its own light but reflects the light from the sun. And even everyday items like a chair are non-luminous objects because we see them only because they reflect light. Recognizing these objects helps us understand how we perceive the world around us, especially in terms of light and visibility. This concept connects to our overall theme of understanding how light interacts with different objects. Today, let's explore the difference between luminous and non-luminous objects. Luminous objects are those that can emit light energy by themselves. Think of the sun or a burning candle. These are classic examples because they produce their own light, making them visible even in darkness. On the other hand, non-luminous objects cannot generate light on their own. They are visible only because they reflect light from luminous objects. For example, the Earth and the Moon are non-luminous. We see them because they reflect sunlight. So, the key distinction is that luminous objects emit their own light, while non-luminous objects require external light sources to be visible. This concept ties into the overall theme of understanding how light interacts with different objects around us. Now, let's do a quick revision of what we've covered so far. First, we discussed what light is. It's a form of energy that allows us to see the world around us. Then, we explored what energy itself means. It's the ability to do work or cause change. Moving on, we looked at the sources of light, which can be natural, like the sun and fireflies, or artificial, like bulbs and LEDs. We also distinguished between luminous objects, which emit their own light, such as a lamp or the sun, and non-luminous objects, which only reflect light, like a book or a chair. So, in summary, we've understood what light is, the different sources of light, and the difference between luminous and non-luminous objects. Remember, these concepts are fundamental because they help us understand how we see things and how light interacts with the world around us.